Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. Okay, before we start, we already did a breakdown of Shang-Chi's mid-credits scene in this video, where we talked about everything about this scene and the origins of the Ten Rings, so be sure to check that out. So with all the excitement surrounding Shang-Chi, it's always too easy to forget about the Bruce Banner reveal. And yeah, now it's Bruce and not Professor Hulk, which is major.
I'm so confused.
These are confusing times.
So what happened to Professor Hulk? How come now he's back to being puny Banner? There's gotta be some story there, right? So let's dive into this transformation, what it means for the Banner-Hulk dynamic, and how it can lead us to see World War Hulk and Maestro in the MCU.
Puny Banner died a long time ago. There's only the Maestro now.
The last time we saw Bruce, he was still big and green after fusing with the Hulk. From what we know about his transformation, it didn't seem like it was something temporary, so you have to wonder what happened here. The most likely reason Banner's back in regular human form is money. Mark Ruffalo is going to appear in She-Hulk, and I'm certain he won't look like Professor Hulk due to budgetary reasons. While Disney puts a lot of money into their shows, there is a limit to what they can do with CGI, especially when they need to do a fully motion-captured character like Hulk. These effects are complicated, and doing it for 6 episodes is just impossible for Disney Plus at this point.
His face is so elastic, and his big cheeks, it's like you need to be able to get all of that. And kind of 1, to get you out of the uncanny valley, and 2, just to make, realize that it's Mark.
Maybe we'll still see Banner Hulk out on the show, but I'm guessing they're going to save their budget for She-Hulk herself. She's the star of the show, and she'll need to look good in her She-Hulk form.
You're damn right.
Which explains why they're going to cut some corners and why Banner's back to being puny Banner. And that's fine. I get that there are restrictions in every production, but Marvel has to find a really good narrative explanation for what happened to Professor Hulk. Banner and Hulk have been on an emotional roller coaster with their fractured relationship.
For years, I've been treating the Hulk like he's some kind of disease, something to get rid of.
After things got to a boiling point in Ragnarok and Infinity War, they finally met in the middle. This is why Bruce and Hulk merged, forming Professor Hulk.
I put the brains and the brawn together, and now look at me. Best of both worlds.
The perfect combination of Banner's mind and Hulk's body. So it'll be very lame if Marvel goes back to Banner being in control for most of the time, and Hulk only coming out when Banner's angry.
I'm always angry.
But we have a really fun theory that might make all of this work and tie into where Marvel's going in the next phases. So I think the key here is the moment where Professor Hulk did the snap that brought back all of the Dustin. In Infinity War, when Thanos snapped his fingers, he was transported to Soul World, where he saw Gamora as a child. I'm gonna guess that Gamora appeared this way to Thanos because maybe that's how he wants to remember her.
What's wrong, little one? I'm sorry, little one.
This is what happened to Tony when he did the snap as well. In a deleted scene for Endgame, Tony finds himself in Soul World, and like Thanos, he sees his daughter. Though Morgan appears as a grown-up played by Catherine Langford. The Russo brothers decided to cut this scene since having an older Morgan all of a sudden would have confused the audience. It makes sense, it is a pretty terrible scene.
I love you 3000.
Hopefully Catherine Langford will get another chance in the MCU, fingers crossed, as Jean Grey.
Which is also really cool because it's like...
Yeah. Anyway, what I'm getting to is that both Thanos and Tony saw their daughters in Soul World after the snap. Professor Hulk also snapped his fingers, and if this happens to everyone who used all 6 Infinity Stones, the question is, who did Professor Hulk see? So here's my theory. First, it is possible that he saw Natasha in Soul World, since he loved her, and also like Gamora, she died on Vormir.
Oh, it's so romantic.
That would be appropriate, but not much fun. So I don't think it was Natasha. No, I think that Professor Hulk saw Maestro.
I am no longer the Hulk. In my time, my subjects call me the Maestro.
Maestro is an evil version of Hulk from a future timeline. He has Banner's brains and Hulk's powers, but both are amplified. He took over the world in a post-apocalyptic future and ruled as a ruthless tyrant. So when Professor Hulk is in Soul World, he sees his evil future self. Maybe the creation of Professor Hulk is what will eventually lead to Maestro. Professor Hulk will continue getting smarter and stronger. The good-natured Banner will disappear, and the angry and ruthless traits of the Hulk will take over. Eventually, he becomes Maestro. He will unleash World War Hulk on Earth, kill all the heroes, and rule the planet.
Because I'm the strongest there is.
Naturally, seeing this dark and terrifying future will freak the green stuff right out of Professor Hulk. Banner will do anything he can to prevent this future, because this is his worst nightmare. losing control of the Hulk and the Green Monster going on an apocalyptic rampage. So Banner will have to undo his merging, and Bruce will take control of his body again, keeping Hulk at bay, vowing to never let the monster out so he will never become Maestro. As far as how he managed to transform back to regular guy form, well, Banner's pretty smart, and he's the expert when it comes to the Hulk. I'd like to believe that when Banner merged with the Hulk, he created some failsafe in case the Professor Hulk experiment went terribly wrong.
Not looking over your shoulder for Veronica.
Don't hate, I helped design Veronica.
As a worst case measure, right?
Now, none of this was addressed in Endgame because there was really no time to go into this in that movie. And there were more pressing issues at the time, like stopping Thanos from wiping out the whole universe. And in hindsight, Marvel can make the Maestro idea work so well. If you think about it, Hulk's story is a tragedy.
So how long have you been like that?
Like what?
Like this. Big, green, stupid.
Hulk, always Hulk.
Everyone is afraid of him. He's a monster, a weapon to be used against other monsters. He's kept in a prison inside of Banner's body for most of the time, never allowed to exist on his own. Then he got his chance at freedom on Sakaar. Finally, he was in full control, while Banner was in the backseat, unable to do anything.
I mean, in the past, I always felt like Hulk and I each had a hand on the wheel. But this time, it's like he had the keys of the car and I was locked in the trunk.
Being in control allowed Hulk to get smarter than his usual smashy self. He was talking, he was thinking, he was even joking. He had his own agency and personality separate from Banner. Meaning that when Hulk and Banner merged, Hulk's growth was halted. Instead of evolving on his own, he was tied into Banner. Professor Hulk always seemed more like regular Banner in Hulk's body than an actual merging between Banner and Hulk. All of Hulk's mannerisms were gone.
Maybe smash a few things along the way.
I think it's gratuitous, but whatever.
It's possible that during their time as the Professor, Hulk got a lot smarter, thanks to him sharing the same mind with Banner. But now Banner's back in full control, which means that the Hulk is once again locked away. And caging a much smarter Hulk might not bode well for anyone.
You know, sometimes when you cage the beast gets angry.
Perhaps Banner taking control of Hulk is the very thing that will push the Green Monster to become Maestro. This could actually be the MCU spin on World War Hulk. Hulk unleashing his full fury, becoming the World Breaker Hulk and Maestro. Hopefully by then Marvel's going to introduce the X-Men, because I would give anything to see Hulk vs. Wolverine in the MCU.
I'm gonna cut your goddamn head off.
But it's highly unlikely any of this will happen in She-Hulk. Based on what we know about the show, it's going to be more comedic. That's actually more in line with the comics, especially Dan Slott's run.
It's a series about a woman trying to navigate the world and be taken seriously as a working professional, despite the fact that she's well over 6'7" and green.
Jennifer Walters actually used to break the fourth wall all the time, long before Deadpool was a twinkle in the eye of a guy who couldn't even draw feet.
Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
But She-Hulk the show can start planting the seeds for Maestro, and eventually Maestro will make his mark in a few years in some big MCU movie. And I also have an idea how Maestro might connect to She-Hulk. In the comics, Jennifer Walters works as a lawyer and she was shot by a crime boss and then almost died. Bruce saved her life with a blood transfusion. His blood. Jennifer survived, but the effects turned her into She-Hulk. But Marvel will probably adjust her origin so it works better with their narrative. I think it might connect to the Abomination's return in She-Hulk. Abomination's cameo in Shang Chi was pretty fun, and that fight with Wong was great. The big takeaway here is that Abomination isn't really a bad guy anymore, with him and Wong being best buddies.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
I guess spending over 10 years behind bars did rehabilitate him nicely. It seems like the MCU are taking us back to the Incredible Hulk, with the return of Thunderbolt Ross in Civil War, and Abomination coming back for Shang Chi, and the third episode of What If recreating some moments from the movie. This could open the door for the return of the Leader, who was only teased back in the Incredible Hulk. What I think might happen is the Leader will do some experiments on Abomination in an attempt to create more powerful Hulks. This might be how we get Red Hulk at some point.
What? You've never seen a Red Hulk before?
He's not confirmed yet, but I just think Red Hulk must happen sooner or later, or I guess She-Red Hulk could work too. Anyways, Leader's work will somehow tie into Jennifer's transformation into She-Hulk. Who knows, maybe Emil Blonsky is her client, and the Leader and some other baddies will go after her when she learns about what's being done to Abomination. One thing will lead to another, Jennifer could be mortally wounded, which will force Banner to intervene. Now, this could be interesting, with Banner having to save Jennifer's life by hulking out, knowing that this could result in Maestro taking over.
What I'm trying to tell you is that if I turn it to the Hulk again, Banner may never come back.
Maybe this is why Bruce will give Jennifer his blood. Or maybe the blood transfusion won't actually be Banner's choice at all, and She-Hulk will be injected with his blood against her will. Possibly because she shares Bruce's DNA, the leader will do experiments on her to turn her into She-Hulk, so he can then create more Gamma monsters. So this could explain how we get Maestro, but I'm sure the one thing that everyone will want to see is Hulk versus Maestro. And thanks to the multiverse, we can see it happen.
No team, only Hulk, baby arms.
The MCU appears to be building towards Secret Wars, and that's a great way to introduce Maestro. The whole idea behind Secret Wars is multiverse universes colliding, so maybe what Banner saw during the snap isn't actually his future, but an alternate timeline. Something like what Doctor Strange saw in Infinity War. He didn't just see one timeline where Thanos was defeated, he saw millions of others.
How many did you see?
14,605,000. How many did we win? 1.
During the snap, Professor Hulk possessed all 6 Infinity Stones. One of them was the Time Stone, so maybe that's how he saw the future. But the future he saw is the one where Hulk became Maestro.
It was our inevitable failure. Destiny's unforgiving hand, beating us to the ground.
And in the Secret Wars event, we'll see Hulk clashing against Maestro, his future self from a different universe. I guess this makes more sense, with Banner and Hulk working together and not against each other. So She-Hulk can explore the fractures between Banner and Hulk and their realization that to prevent Maestro, they must overcome their differences and stop the dark future from happening.
I have no idea, man. We're talking about time travel here. Either it's all a joke or none of it is. We're good.
Now sure, I'll be the first one to admit that maybe we're overthinking the meaning of Banner's transformation in Shang Chi, but I really do hope that Marvel doesn't just brush off the potential of Maestro and where they can go with Hulk in the future. So do you think Banner's new look in Shang Chi significant? Do you think we're ever going to see Maestro in the MCU? What do you think Professor Hulk saw when he snapped his fingers? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.